that the VA is under investigation following a report that as many as 40 veterans died while waiting for care at a hospital in Phoenix, a VA hospital, where staff has been accused of cooking the books to mask really long wait times. And now I think there are more than 26 VA hospitals across the country that are being investigated. Arthur, this is obviously a major headache for the administration, and this is something that's coming as there's a Benghazi committee.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of politicking over the IRS. They still are being obviously slammed for the NSA surveillance. It's hard to tell sometimes what's a faux scandal and a real scandal. How bad is this?
I think scandal is a fair word for this. If it's true that a number of veterans died because they were denied prompt medical attention. And so the Inspector General of the VA is looking into it. But he said that in 17 of the 40 cases in Phoenix that have been cited by CNN, you couldn't say that the people who died because they were waiting. Mm-hmm. They died while they were waiting, which I think is often the case, if you have ongoing medical issues like many veterans do. So this is potentially, scandal, I think, potentially a very fair word for this.
I think that's an important point. The distinction is very significant just because oftentimes there are these blockbuster reports and CNN has certainly advertised this as 40 veterans died and this is why. And obviously, you cannot directly put their deaths on the wait times per se.
Right.
That's but certainly there seems to have been a concerted effort to kind of rig the system.
It's scandalous if veterans don't get the best medical attention, the best service. Our colleague David Wood, who's interviewed a lot of people in the VA system and a lot of veterans, says, they come home from having sacrificed so much, working in other countries, combat, and people often don't understand the work that they have done. But the VA is this one place where they get, the best possible attention, and they really cherish that. And it's terrible when you get stuck on a waiting list.
Absolutely. And, one of the questions that's coming out of this is whether or not the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs Department, Eric Shinseki, should have to step down. We have actually a clip of General Martin Dempsey discussing this matter.
Well, it is outrageous if the allegations actually are documented and proven, and I suspect some of them will be. They've got to be held accountable. I think that Rick Shinseki has made it very clear that they will be held accountable, and then
including him.
Of course. I mean, at some point, the chief executive, the chairman, whoever it is, has to take responsibility for the entire organization and its performance.
Now, there are certainly more Republicans who've come out and called for his head, as well as a couple of Democratic candidates running for the Senate who are not in the Senate. Allison Lundergan-Grimes and Michelle Nunn, who want to run away from this administration at a time like this. But does that really solve the problem?
Well, that's an interesting question. Does giving the boot to the top executive of a large bureaucracy, while it's in turmoil, make the turmoil better or worse? And I think that's why you don't have across-the-board Republicans just saying he should resign, because it's not obvious how that would fix the problem, though you do like the idea of accountability and the people who are in charge when things go wrong paying the price by losing their jobs. But how exactly would that make things better for veterans? And I think that's why people like the idea of letting the Inspector General finish its report. Then we'll figure out what we're going to do with Eric Shinseki.
Do you think that's what's holding back Republican leaders? It is interesting that John Boehner and Mitch McConnell have come close to calling for his head, but they aren't willing to explicitly say it, and that's rare for them. They're usually ready to pounce. Because
there's a lot of respect for Eric Shinseki, himself a decorated military veteran. The loudest voices calling for his resignation are coming from outside the American Legion and these other veterans groups, which do not go around calling for people to resign willy-nilly. And that's really serious. They think he should go. But it's an interesting debate, and I think it's easier for people to say, well, let's see what the Inspector General has to say before we go calling for his head.
Yeah, and I think that report is going to be very important because it's just not clear, first of all, whether a number of hospitals were also cooking the books. It's not clear who knew about it in terms of top-level officials. They have let go some senior officials as an initial step.